Governments like to tell you they're working for your financial freedom. They talk about stability, opportunity, growth. But if you look closer, history tells a very different story. Governments have long used hidden financial tricks to keep ordinary people dependent, while concentrating wealth and power at the top. These tricks are not new. They've been recycled for centuries, repackaged, given new names. But the goal has always been the same: shift wealth upward and keep the majority working harder for less. The oldest trick is inflation. It's simple but powerful. When a government spends more than it collects in taxes, it has two choices. One is to raise taxes openly. Politically, that's risky. People resist. Revolts can happen. The other option is quieter. Debase the currency. Reduce the value of each coin or note, and the public loses wealth without realizing it. Ancient Rome mastered this tactic. In the 3rd century AD, emperors faced huge military expenses. Instead of raising taxes, they reduced the silver content of the denarius. What was once nearly pure silver became mostly copper with a thin layer of silver. People kept using the coins, thinking nothing had changed. But their purchasing power shrank. Inflation soared. Savings evaporated. Wages couldn't keep up. This wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate strategy, and it hasn't disappeared. Modern governments use central banks, printing money or manipulating interest rates, achieving the same result: a quiet, invisible tax on ordinary citizens. The Middle Ages had a similar trick: forced loans. Monarchs in England, France, and Spain regularly compelled wealthy merchants and guilds to lend money to the crown. Refusal wasn't an option. Punishments included fines, confiscation, or worse. Sometimes loans came with interest, sometimes repayment was delayed, sometimes never at all. Meanwhile, kings funded wars, palaces, and lavish lifestyles. The merchants lost. The crown profited. Duty and patriotism were used as a disguise for coercion. By the 17th century, governments perfected the trick with debt. Britain created the Bank of England in 1694. The government needed money to fight France. Wealthy investors purchased bonds, and the crown promised interest. Who paid those interest payments? Ordinary people, through taxes on everyday goods like salt, beer, and cloth. The wealthy lent money and earned secure returns. The poor paid for it. The system was elegant. Risk-free returns for the elite, financed by ordinary citizens. And the pattern remains today. Lending to governments is among the safest investments. Repayment, however, falls on the masses. Modern governments continue these tricks, just in new forms. Deficit spending, for example. Politicians borrow huge sums and claim it's for infrastructure, jobs, or social programs. On paper, it seems beneficial, but much of the money flows to defense contractors, corporate subsidies, and bailouts. When the debt comes due, governments don't usually cut top-level spending. Instead, they raise taxes, reduce social programs, or allow inflation to erode the value of money. Ordinary people shoulder the burden. The elite reap the reward. The trick remains the same. Money appears to help the public, but the public pays first. Bailouts are another form of the same pattern. During the 2008 financial crisis, banks took reckless risks with mortgages and derivatives. They nearly collapsed the global economy. Who paid for the rescue? Ordinary taxpayers. Who profited afterward? The very same banks. Privatized gains, socialized losses, and the public was told it was necessary to save the system. Pensions are yet another hidden transfer of wealth. Citizens contribute for decades, trusting that money will be there in retirement. But governments rarely save it. Contributions are spent immediately. What remains are promises. Future taxpayers are supposed to cover the bills. The system works until demographics shift. Populations age. Fewer workers support more retirees. Then the government reforms pensions. Benefits are reduced. Retirement ages rise. Inflation devalues payouts. Ordinary people lose. The trick remains unchanged. Perception is crucial. Inflation is called growth. Forced loans are duty. National debt is investment. Bailouts are stability. Pension reform is progress. The language hides the reality. Money moves from the many to the few. History shows it works because most people don't study economics or see the trap until it's too late. Quantitative easing is a modern version. After the 2008 crisis, central banks created trillions of dollars out of thin air to stabilize markets. Politicians claimed it was necessary to prevent collapse. And it worked for the financial system. Asset prices soared, stocks, bonds, real estate. But who owns most of these assets? The wealthy. Ordinary households saw little benefit. Meanwhile, inflation slowly eroded purchasing power. The trick? Money creation stabilizes the system for the top, while everyday people struggle to keep up. Stealth taxation works the same way. Instead of raising income tax directly, governments tax indirectly. Sales taxes, fuel duties, and inflation. When prices rise faster than wages, the public loses wealth silently. Citizens feel they're earning more, but in real terms, they're losing. Regulatory capture is another tool. Regulations are meant to protect the public, but powerful industries shape the rules. Railroads in the 19th century, oil companies in the 20th, tech and finance today, they all influence regulations to protect profits. On the surface, the public sees protection. Behind the curtain, corporations carve loopholes, stifle competition, and secure advantages. Profits stay concentrated at the top. Citizens believe in fairness. The system is rigged. War finance has followed a similar pattern for centuries. During world wars, governments issued bonds, telling citizens it was their patriotic duty to invest. Wealthy investors gained secure returns. Ordinary taxpayers funded the wars. In the 21st century, wars in Iraq and Afghanistan followed the same pattern. Trillions were borrowed. Defense contractors and banks profited. The public paid, often for decades after the conflicts ended. Emergencies are always temporary. Financial burdens last for generations. Complexity is the final trick. Tax codes, financial instruments, and budgets are intentionally opaque. If the public can't follow the money, the transfer of wealth continues unnoticed. Ancient Rome had debased coins. Today, it's spreadsheets, acronyms, and policies. The principle is the same. Make it too complex to understand, and ordinary citizens cannot resist. The lesson is simple. These mechanisms, inflation, forced loans, debt, bailouts, pensions, stealth taxation, regulatory capture, war finance, and complexity, have persisted for centuries. They shift wealth upward while keeping ordinary people working harder for less. Understanding history is critical. Financial literacy is resistance. Knowledge is the best defense against silent wealth transfers. Ordinary people who ignore these lessons are at the mercy of systems designed to protect the powerful. Recognizing the tricks is the first step. The next is learning how to protect wealth and navigate the system. Because if you don't, history will repeat itself, and your financial freedom will be quietly eroded, one policy at a time. The tricks didn't vanish with time, they just evolved. Governments found new ways to extract wealth without appearing to do so. Debt, bailouts, inflation, regulatory capture, they all persist, often in more sophisticated forms. Deficit spending is one of the clearest examples. Politicians borrow enormous sums, claiming it's for infrastructure, healthcare, or education. It sounds beneficial, but much of the money flows to defense contractors, corporate subsidies, and banks. When repayment comes due, ordinary citizens shoulder the burden. Taxes rise, social programs are cut. Inflation eats away at savings. Meanwhile, the wealthy, bondholders, investors, and large corporations receive steady returns. The public pays first, the elite profit first. Bailouts are another modern trick, disguised as emergency measures. In 2008, banks took massive risks with mortgage-backed securities and derivatives. The financial system teetered on collapse. Who paid to stabilize it? Ordinary taxpayers. Who benefited afterward? The very same banks. The public was told it was necessary to save the system. The reality? Privatized gains, socialized losses. It was a transfer of wealth disguised as rescue. Pensions operate under a similar principle. Citizens contribute for decades, trusting governments to manage the funds responsibly. In practice, much of it is spent immediately. What remains are promises. Future taxpayers are expected to cover the gaps. The system functions until demographics shift. Populations age. Fewer workers support more retirees. Then governments reform pensions. Benefits shrink. Retirement ages rise. Inflation reduces real payouts. Ordinary people lose. Governments and financial elites remain protected. Inflation itself remains a silent but powerful weapon. Central banks create money, buy government bonds, and manipulate interest rates. Citizens are told these actions stabilize the economy. The effect? Asset prices surge. Stocks, real estate, bonds, primarily benefiting the wealthy. Ordinary workers struggle to keep up. Wages lag behind rising living costs. The trick is clear. Stabilize the financial system for the top, while everyday people bear the hidden cost. Stealth taxation amplifies the effect. Income taxes feel visible and fair, but indirect taxes, sales taxes, fuel duties, inflation, erode wealth quietly. Prices rise faster than wages. Citizens feel richer in nominal terms, but their purchasing power declines. Regulatory capture is another key tool. Regulations are supposed to protect the public. In reality, powerful industries shape them to their advantage. Railroads in the 19th century, oil companies in the 20th, and tech and finance today, each has influenced the rules to protect profits. Citizens see safety, corporations see opportunity, loopholes emerge, competition shrinks, profits concentrate. The public believes in fairness. The system is rigged. War finance demonstrates the same pattern. During both world wars, governments issued bonds, urging citizens to buy them for patriotic reasons. Wealthy investors received secure returns. Ordinary taxpayers funded the wars. In modern conflicts, the same strategy persists. Wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond were financed through debt, benefiting banks, defense contractors, and bondholders. Ordinary citizens paid the cost, often for decades. Emergencies are presented as temporary. The financial obligations are long-term. Complexity is one of the most effective modern tricks. Tax codes are thousands of pages long. Budgets are filled with jargon. Financial instruments are intentionally opaque. The public cannot follow the money. When the flow of wealth is invisible, resistance becomes impossible. Ancient Rome left physical evidence, debased coins. Today, the signals are spreadsheets, acronyms, and policies. Complexity hides the transfer of wealth. Central banks perfected this tool with quantitative easing. Trillions of dollars were created to stabilize markets. Stocks, real estate, and bonds soared. Yet ordinary households saw minimal direct benefit. Inflation quietly increased costs of living. The wealthy gained liquidity and stability. Ordinary citizens paid the hidden price. Language reinforces the illusion. Policymakers speak of stimulus, growth, and stability. Citizens hear progress. The wealthy hear profit. The reality is reversed. Ordinary people bear risk, while the elite gain. Crises amplify the effect. Economic collapses, wars, pandemics, they create urgency. Governments convince the public that immediate action is necessary. People comply. The wealthy consolidate power. Ordinary citizens cover the cost. Consider taxation again. Most people focus on income tax, but indirect taxes, fees, hidden charges, and inflation often consume far more over a lifetime. The public feels taxed less than it actually is. Governments benefit. Citizens pay more quietly. Even financial markets operate under the same principle. Programs designed to stabilize the economy inflate asset prices first. Wealthy investors gain liquidity and security. Ordinary citizens struggle to keep up. Housing prices rise. Investments become inaccessible. Wealth concentrates at the top. Retirement accounts are not immune. Inflation, taxes, and market volatility erode long-term savings. Governments promise stability. The reality is uncertainty. The public loses, often without realizing it. The system relies on perception. Policies are framed as fair, necessary, or protective. Ordinary people trust the message. Meanwhile, wealth moves upward, quietly and efficiently. History proves these patterns repeat. Rome, medieval monarchies, early banks, and modern financial institutions all show the same mechanism. Ordinary people fund the system. The elite reap the benefits. Awareness is essential. Recognizing these patterns allows individuals to resist manipulation. Financial literacy and knowledge of history are defensive tools. Ignorance is the most effective weapon governments and elites can use. Protecting wealth requires strategy. Diversification, investments that hold value in inflationary times, and understanding monetary policy are crucial. Ordinary citizens can't rely solely on government promises. Asking the right questions is vital. Who benefits first from stimulus programs? Who bears the cost of debt? Whose interests shape regulations? Without scrutiny, citizens remain participants in a system designed to transfer wealth upward. Complexity, perception, and crises are leveraged continuously. They make ordinary people feel like the system is fair and functioning. In reality, these mechanisms ensure the elite are protected, and ordinary citizens carry the cost. Understanding the system is resistance. Knowledge empowers action. Without it, financial freedom erodes silently over decades as wealth shifts upward. History repeats. Crises, currency manipulation, wars, pensions, bailouts, they all return. The players change, the tools evolve, but the mechanism remains. The public bears the cost. The elite profit. Awareness is the first step. Action comes next. Protect your wealth. Question narratives. Look beyond headlines. The system was never designed for ordinary people. It was designed to protect itself. In today's world, the tricks are faster, more complex, and more global. Governments no longer operate in isolation. Central banks, multinational corporations, and international financial institutions coordinate policies that affect billions of people. Monetary policy is a prime example. Central banks can create trillions of dollars, euros, or yen almost instantly. They buy government bonds, mortgage-backed securities, and corporate debt. The public is told it's to stabilize the economy. The effect is predictable. Asset prices soar first. Stocks, real estate, bonds. Those who already own wealth see gains immediately. Ordinary households, who earn wages instead of investment income, gain little. Meanwhile, inflation quietly erodes savings and purchasing power. Even low interest rates, presented as a benefit for borrowers, have hidden consequences. They encourage debt, inflate housing markets, and favor large institutions over individual savers. Wealth shifts upward. Ordinary people pay through higher rents, property prices, and reduced returns on savings. Global finance amplifies these patterns. Governments borrow from foreign investors and international banks. Corporations operate across borders, minimizing taxes while benefiting from subsidies and regulations. Ordinary citizens are tied to local economies, paying the price for decisions made in boardrooms and central banks far away. Bailouts are now global. When markets wobble, governments and international institutions intervene. In 2008, billions of dollars were used to rescue banks in multiple countries. Ordinary people absorbed losses indirectly, through taxes, austerity measures, or inflation. The elite gained security and new opportunities. Financial instruments have become nearly incomprehensible. Derivatives, collateralized debt obligations, and complex swaps hide risk and wealth transfers. Most people cannot understand these tools. Complexity protects the system, ensuring that ordinary citizens cannot respond. Quantitative easing has become routine. Central banks continue to purchase assets to stabilize markets, often with little public understanding. Wealthy investors and large corporations benefit. Ordinary households watch costs rise, while investment opportunities remain out of reach. Even pensions and retirement funds are affected. Public and private systems invest in markets influenced by central bank policies. When these policies inflate asset prices, the wealthy gain. Ordinary people contribute more, but may see diminishing returns, especially after inflation and fees. Globalization plays a role too. Outsourcing, trade agreements, and multinational corporations shift profits and tax obligations internationally. Ordinary citizens fund governments through taxes and labor. Corporations benefit from global protections, subsidies, and loopholes. The balance of power remains heavily skewed. The lesson is consistent. Policies are framed as fair, necessary, or inevitable, but they almost always favor the already powerful. Ordinary people pay indirectly, through inflation, taxes, higher costs, and diminished opportunities. The language masks the reality. Understanding these mechanisms is crucial. Financial literacy is no longer optional. Awareness of monetary policy, central bank actions, and international finance is a form of protection. It allows you to see where wealth is flowing and how to safeguard your own. Protecting real wealth requires action. Diversify assets. Avoid putting all savings into currency or local investments vulnerable to inflation and policy shifts. Consider real estate, commodities, or other stores of value. Learn how to make money work for you, rather than assuming the system does. Monitor inflation and interest rates. Know how central bank policies affect your purchasing power. Even small changes can accumulate into significant losses over decades. Question government programs. Not all subsidies or bailouts benefit the public equally. Ask who gains first. Scrutinize how money flows through institutions. Awareness prevents being an unwitting participant in wealth transfers. Complexity is the enemy of oversight. Simplify your finances where possible. Keep clear records. Understand how investments, loans, and retirement funds operate. When the system is opaque, you cannot defend yourself. Build multiple streams of income. Relying on wages alone makes you vulnerable. Assets that generate passive income provide security against inflation and policy shifts. Stay informed about global economic trends. Wars, crises, pandemics, and political instability are often used to justify policy changes. Understanding the broader picture helps anticipate hidden impacts on wealth and purchasing power. Protect your knowledge. Economic literacy is resistance. Governments and elites benefit when citizens remain ignorant. Understanding history, financial policy, and economic principles makes it harder for wealth transfers to occur unnoticed. Diversification isn't just financial. Knowledge, skills, and networks are valuable assets. When systems fail or policies shift, having multiple avenues of security ensures resilience. Be skeptical of official narratives. Stimulus, reform, and financial protection programs are rarely neutral. Examine who benefits first, who bears the cost, and whether ordinary citizens are being positioned as the funders of elite gains. Small, consistent actions matter. Save in stable stores of value. Invest wisely. Monitor economic signals. Question narratives. These steps protect wealth over the long term, even against sophisticated financial tricks. History provides guidance. Rome, medieval kingdoms, early central banks, and modern institutions all show the same patterns. Money flows upward, the public pays, and systems persist through perception and complexity. The modern system is faster and more interconnected, but the principle is unchanged. Understanding it allows you to navigate it strategically rather than being silently drained. Crises will continue. Governments will respond with debt, bailouts, and policies that favor the wealthy. Ordinary citizens can prepare by being informed, diversified, and cautious. Financial freedom is possible, but only if you understand the game. You cannot rely solely on government promises, market stability, or corporate integrity. You must understand history, monitor policies, and protect real wealth. Look beyond the headlines. Study where money flows. Question the winners and the losers. Build assets resilient to inflation and policy shifts. Protect knowledge as fiercely as you protect capital. The system is not designed to fail, but it is designed to protect itself. Wealth will always consolidate if citizens remain unaware. Education, awareness, and strategic action are the only shields. Remember, the tricks are old but effective. They have been applied for centuries. The players change, the tools evolve, but the outcome is the same if you remain unaware. Ordinary people pay, and the elite profit. The difference today is choice. History teaches, knowledge empowers, and strategic action preserves wealth. You can't control every policy, crisis, or market shift, but you can control how you respond, how you protect what you have, and how you ensure the system doesn't quietly take from you. Financial freedom is not a gift from governments. It is a result of understanding the patterns, anticipating the moves, and protecting your wealth and knowledge at every stage. History is your guide. Awareness is your shield. Action is your weapon. The system will always play its tricks, but if you see them coming, you can stay one step ahead.